Imagine this, you wake up one morning and as your mind shakes off the fog of sleep, a single thought pierces through, clear, cold, and inescapable. What if none of this matters? Not in the fleeting way of a bad day or a minor existential wobble, but in the most fundamental sense. What if life has no inherent meaning, no grand design, no cosmic purpose, no script waiting to unfold? What if every ambition, every struggle, every love and loss is just a ripple in an indifferent universe? Your breath catches. The room feels too still. The weight of the question presses down like a physical force. You've spent years, maybe your entire life, chasing something: success, connection, legacy. But what if it was all just motion, not direction? What if the answer to why am I here is simply, there is no answer? This isn't nihilism. This is something deeper, more unsettling. It's the quiet before the storm of realization. Because if life has no predefined meaning, then everything you've ever feared or desired exists in a void. The careers we grind for, the relationships we cling to, the ideologies we defend, what are they, really? Stories we tell ourselves to keep the abyss at bay? And yet, what if that's not a tragedy? What if the absence of meaning isn't a curse, but a liberation? A blank canvas, not an empty grave? Consider the paradox. We spend our lives searching for purpose as if it's a buried treasure, something to be unearthed and claimed. But what if purpose was never lost because it was never there to begin with? What if the search itself is the distraction? The question isn't just philosophical. It's visceral. It claws at the foundation of who you are. Because if meaning isn't handed to you, then where does it come from? And what happens when you stare into that silence and realize you must be the one to speak? This is where the real journey begins. Not in answering the question, but in daring to ask it. Not in finding meaning, but in facing what happens when you let go of the need for it to exist at all. The void isn't waiting to swallow you. It's waiting to set you free. But first, you have to confront what that really means. The terror of meaninglessness isn't new. It's an ancient specter, one that has haunted humanity since we first gazed at the stars and wondered if they gazed back. But why does this idea, that life might have no intrinsic purpose, feel like a threat rather than a revelation? The answer lies in the stories we've been told, the myths we've inherited, and the way our minds are wired. From birth, we're conditioned to seek narrative, a beginning, middle, and end that reassures us our suffering has a point. Religion promises divine plans. Capitalism sells the myth of progress. Even our personal lives are framed as arcs. You're here to become something, to matter, but strip those away, and what remains? Philosophers have wrestled with this for centuries. Jean-Paul Sartre called this the agony of freedom. Without a script, we are condemned to choose, and that responsibility is paralyzing. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, argued that even in the worst suffering, humans need meaning to survive. But what if that need is the very thing that chains us? Psychology reveals something darker. Our brains are meaning-making machines hardwired to find patterns, causality, and purpose where none exist. This is the illusion of agency, the desperate belief that events happen for a reason, because the alternative chaos is too terrifying to face. Studies show that when people feel a lack of control, they cling even tighter to superstitions, ideologies, or grand narratives. Meaninglessness feels like free fall. But here's the hidden trap: the more we demand life means something, the more we suffer when it doesn't deliver. We twist ourselves into roles we never chose, chase goals we never wanted, and silence the quiet voice asking, what if this is all a game I never agreed to play? The real crisis isn't that life has no meaning. It's that we've been taught to fear the absence of one. And that fear, that conditioned reflex to grasp for purpose like a lifeline, is what keeps us from seeing the truth. But what if we stopped grasping? What then? The consequences are more profound and more liberating than you've been led to believe. The real danger of our obsession with meaning isn't that we fail to find it, it's that we pretend we have. We construct elaborate facades to hide the void, careers turned into crusades, relationships into redemption arcs, politics into holy wars. But beneath the surface, something far more insidious is at work. Consider how this hunger silently warps our lives. We suffer more. When we believe pain must have a purpose, we don't just endure it, we demand it teach us something. A breakup isn't just heartbreak, it's a lesson. Failure isn't just failure, it's a test. But what if some things just hurt with no deeper reason? Our refusal to accept this turns suffering into a prison of interpretation, where every wound must be justified to be bearable. We live less. Obsessed with legacy, we treat our lives like resumes collecting achievements as if they're proof we mattered. But ask yourself, when you're dying, will you care about the promotions? The likes? The meticulously crafted identity you spent decades building? Or will you wonder why you never truly existed outside the stories you told yourself? Society crumbles under the weight of collective delusion. Wars are fought over whose meaning is right. People exploit and are exploited in the name of grand narratives, whether religious, political, or economic. The most violent conflicts arise not from meaninglessness, but from the certainty that one's meaning is absolute. Even science, our last bastion of objectivity, bends to the craving. The multiverse theory, simulation hypothesis, even the search for extraterrestrial life all are, at their core, attempts to reassure ourselves that something out there knows why we're here. But the most tragic consequence? We miss what's right in front of us. A sunset is no longer just beautiful, it must be spiritual. Sex isn't just pleasure, it's sacred. Love isn't just connection, it's destiny. By compulsively adding layers of meaning, we strip away the raw, unfiltered experience of being alive. This is the great irony. In our desperation to make life matter, we sterilize it of its very vitality. But what if the exit isn't upward into higher meanings, but downward into the bare, uninterpreted moment? The rebellion starts there. And it's more radical than you think. The escape begins with a single, blasphemous thought. What if I stopped pretending? Not in despair, but in defiance. What if you dare to live without demanding life justify itself? This isn't nihilism, it's something far more dangerous to the status quo. It's the realization that meaning isn't found, but forged. And the first step is to incinerate the false idols you've been taught to worship. Stop spiritualizing suffering. Pain doesn't need a reason to exist. A cancer diagnosis isn't a journey. Trauma isn't a gift. Some things are just terrible. When you stop forcing silver linings, you reclaim something radical, the right to say this hurts without needing to sanctify it. Kill your heroes. The people society holds up as meaningful saints, billionaires, martyrs, are just humans who got trapped in stories. You don't need to be important to matter. The clerk who smiles at you, the stranger who laughs at your joke, these are the unheralded rebels who've slipped the noose of grandeur. Embrace the absurd. Albert Camus saw the truth, life is irrational, and our rage for order is the real insanity. The rebel laughs in the face of the void, not because nothing matters, but because playing anyway is the ultimate act of freedom. Dance when there's no music. Love knowing it won't last. Create even if your art will burn. History's freest minds understood this. The Zen masters who wrote poetry on disappearing ink. The Dadaists who made art specifically to offend meaning. The existentialists who said existence precedes essence, you exist first, your purpose comes after, if at all. Here's the secret they won't teach you, meaning is a cage. Meaninglessness is the open sky. When you stop asking, why am I here, you start noticing, you're already here. The grass is cool under your feet. The air smells like rain. Someone's hand is warm in yours. This isn't philosophy, it's aliveness. But the final revelation? It's not what you expect. Here's the paradox they never told you. Life becomes radiantly meaningful precisely when you stop demanding that it be. The moment you release the need for cosmic purpose, something extraordinary happens. The world, the real, unfiltered, uninterpreted world, comes rushing back in. Colors sharpen. Time slows. The mundane becomes miraculous not because it points to something greater, but because it doesn't. A coffee cup is wholly simply as a coffee cup. A conversation is profound precisely because it will be forgotten. This is what the mystics whispered about and the philosophers missed. The sacred was in the ordinary all along. We just couldn't see it through the veil of our desperate meaning-making. Consider. A dying man doesn't regret missing his destiny, he regrets the sunrises he didn't watch. The greatest love stories aren't about fate, they're about two people choosing each other again and again for no reason at all. Every spiritual awakening ultimately circles back to the same truth. This is it. Right here. The ultimate freedom isn't finding answers, it's realizing the questions were prisons. When you stop trying to decode the universe, you finally join it. A wave doesn't ask why it crashes. A bird doesn't wonder if its flight matters. And you? You're the universe tasting itself, touching itself, waking up to itself, with no exam to pass, no role to fulfill. So here's your invitation. Step out of the story. Let the plot dissolve. The meaning of life isn't hidden, it's what's left when you stop looking. The void wasn't empty after all. It was home.